Imagine spending 2 years of your life, and like your entire life savings just prototyping the perfect product.
Right, a total passion project.
Exactly. And you finally get it made, the initial run completely sells out, and you are just feeling incredible.
The best feeling in the world.
It is. But then you go to order your second batch,
Yeah.
and you discover the factory you hired to make it, well, they legally own the custom molds you paid for.
Oh, man.
And they refuse to release them. But it gets worse, because they are now using those exact molds to manufacture your invention, and they're selling it to your biggest competitor at like half the price.
It is a brutal, brutal reality of the hardware game, but, it is entirely preventable if you just understand the mechanics of how this industry actually operates.
Yeah, and that is exactly why we are here. Today, we're making sure that nightmare scenario never happens to you. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So the mission for today is crystal clear. You've got this brilliant idea, the design, maybe even a working prototype sitting on your desk right now. But how do you actually get this thing made at scale without losing your mind, your money, or, as we just said, your intellectual property?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
It really is. So we are pulling from this really comprehensive strategy developed by Retailbound. That's a retail channel management consultancy founded by Johann Jacob. And it's all about how product startups can find and secure the right manufacturing partner.
That's a great resource.
So let's unpack this, because going from a prototype to mass production, I mean, it's fundamentally like inventing a new, really complex recipe in your home kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Where you control every single grain of salt.
Yeah, you have total control.
But then suddenly you're trying to open a massive commercial food factory designed to pump out, I don't know, 10,000 flawless meals a day.
Right, identical meals.
Exactly. The skill set isn't just a little different. It requires a totally different operational mindset.
And it really does. You're shifting from creation to execution. And honestly, that transition is where most startups completely fail.
Wow, really? Most of them.
Oh, absolutely. Because finding a manufacturer isn't just about paying someone to, assemble parts on a conveyor belt. It's about building a highly complex, interconnected production ecosystem.
Makes sense.
So the goal of our discussion today is to equip you with the exact operational levers you need to pull to navigate this high-stakes environment.
Which means before you even think about firing up your laptop and blindly Googling factories, you have to get your own house in order.
Yes. Please do not just start calling factories unprepared.
Right. Because approaching a commercial manufacturer when you aren't ready doesn't just make you look amateur. It essentially puts a giant target on your back.
You are setting yourself up for massive delays or just complete exploitation, honestly.
So the foundation begins with ruthless market research. You need to intimately understand the unique value proposition of your product. And that actually leads to a crucial fork in the road that I think a lot of inventors honestly skip right over.
Oh, the licensing question.
Exactly. Deciding if you actually want to produce this physical item yourself, or if you should just license the idea to an established company.
And licensing is highly attractive for a certain type of creator.
How so?
Well, you hand over the intellectual property, you collect a royalty on every unit sold, and you let a massive corporation absorb all the intense friction of supply chains, factory floor management, freight logistics.
All the headaches, basically.
Exactly, all the headaches. But assuming you do intend to build this company and produce it yourself, you cannot approach a factory with just a sketch on a napkin.
Right.
You must have a working physical prototype. The factory needs to see it to prove that your specifications actually translate into physical reality.
Like proving the laws of physics apply to your idea.
Pretty much. They need to know that the materials hold up, that the dimensions actually fit together when assembled.
It's the difference between a cool idea and a tangible schematic.
Yeah.
But, okay, once you have that prototype, you have to lock down the legal side. Securing your intellectual property, your IP, with patents, trademarks, or copyrights.
Crucial step.
But I have to admit, I've always wanted to push back on this particular piece of advice.
Oh, really? Let's hear it.
Well, do I really need to spend, thousands of dollars on an IP lawyer before I've even manufactured a single product for a paying customer?
I hear that a lot.
From a cash flow perspective, it just feels like putting the cart way before the horse.
I get that. But what's fascinating here is that the most dangerous threat to your intellectual property isn't always some shadowy competitor on the other side of the world trying to reverse engineer your product.
Wait, really? Who is it then?
It's often the very manufacturer you hire.
Oh, wow.
Think about the mechanics of it. If you hand over unprotected, highly detailed blueprints to a factory, they now have your entire R&D.
They have everything.
They have the schematics, the material lists, everything. If there's no legal protection, there is very little stopping that facility from taking your design, tweaking a minor cosmetic detail, and just producing it themselves.
And they could undercut you aggressively on price.
Exactly, because they didn't have to spend a dime or a year of their time on the actual research and development. You did that for them.
So by securing the IP up front, you are actively preventing your own manufacturing partner from becoming your most unbeatable competitor.
That's it exactly. You are establishing firm legal boundaries before the exchange of information even begins.
That is such a huge perspective shift.
And once those boundaries are set, you have to fundamentally understand what a manufacturer actually does, because it goes far beyond simply taking tab A and inserting it into slot B.
Right, they aren't just putting Legos together.
Far from it. They are supply chain managers. They have to source the raw materials, often from dozens of different secondary suppliers.
Wow.
They build the specialized tooling required for your specific components. They engineer the quality control testing environments. And they recruit, hire, and manage the skilled labor pool.
Which perfectly explains why you can't just talk to their sales rep when you're vetting them.
Oh, absolutely not.
If you are trusting this facility with that entire ecosystem, speaking only to a sales rep is like, it's like buying a house and only talking to the real estate agent, but never bothering to hire a home inspector.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right, because the real estate agent's entire job is to show you the glossy countertops and close the deal. But the home inspector is the one who climbs into the crawl space and tells you the foundation is cracked and the wiring is a huge fire hazard.
Exactly. In the manufacturing world, you have to talk directly to the engineers and the production managers.
The people actually doing the work.
Yes. The engineers are the ones who look at your prototype and tell you the physical truth.
Right.
They will calculate the material stress. They will tell you if, say, a certain curve in your plastic housing is impossible to injection mold at scale without structural failure.
So you have to get past the slick sales pitch and interrogate the actual mechanics of the production line.
You have to.
Okay, so we know we need to talk to the engineers, our IP is totally secured, and we have a working prototype. But where do we actually find these factories? I imagine most people just go straight to Alibaba, type in the name of their product, and look for the absolute cheapest per unit cost they can find.
Which is terrifying. It's essentially playing Russian roulette with your supply chain.
Yeah, that seems like a massive gamble.
It is. You have to use vetted hunting grounds. If you are looking domestically, like here in the U.S., platforms like Makers Row, ThomasNet, and IndustryNet are incredibly reliable directories.
And they index verified industrial capabilities, right?
Exactly. They aren't just random lists. Now, if you are sourcing internationally, Alibaba is certainly a major player. But you also want to look at mfg.com and utilize Global Sourcing Specialists, or GSS.
Got it.
And honestly, digital directories only go so far. You really should be attending physical trade shows and industry expos.
Getting face-to-face, just shaky hands.
Nothing replaces walking a trade show floor, physically handling a factory's past work, and looking a production manager right in the eye.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from a conversation.
Plus, the referrals you get from other product-based business owners in those rooms, they are worth their weight in gold.
Okay, so let's say we pull a list of candidates from ThomasNet, or maybe we met them at a trade show. Now comes the interrogation phase.
My favorite part.
How do we separate the top-tier partners from the absolute disasters? The source material lays out this vital framework of 10 specific questions you have to drill into during this vetting process.
Yes, the Big 10.
And looking at them, they fall into three main categories: technical reality, financial traps, and supply chain accountability.
Let's start with the technical reality.
Okay, so you obviously have to ask what their quality assurance process looks like and what certifications their staff holds. But I'm guessing you can't just accept a simple, yes, we have QA.
No, absolutely not. If they just tell you, we check every unit, they are likely lying or they're just highly, highly inefficient.
Yeah.
You want to hear the mechanics of their quality control. You want them to cite specific ISO standard certifications like ISO 9001.
Okay, so specific names.
Exactly. You want them to describe their statistical sampling methods, like how many units per batch are pulled from the line, what specific calipers or stress tests are applied to those units.
Wow, so really getting in the weeds.
And what the acceptable tolerance levels are.
You also need to ask, Have you produced similar products in our specific industry?
Oh, because you do not want to fund their learning curve.
Precisely. If you are making complex consumer electronics, you do not want a factory that specializes in simple plastic toys trying to figure out printed circuit boards on your dime. Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is.
Yeah.
And the next technical question is critical regarding visibility. How much of the production is done in-house versus outsourced?
You know, that one feels incredibly sneaky to me. Like if I hire factory A, but they immediately outsource my components to factory B and C across town, I have totally lost control over who is touching my product.
Yes, and it's super common. It's known as shadow subcontracting.
Shadow subcontracting. Yikes.
Yeah, the more facilities that handle your blueprints and components without your direct knowledge, the higher your risk for severe quality drops and IP leaks.
So you want a facility that handles the vast majority of the manufacturing steps under their own roof.
Exactly. Keep it consolidated.
Okay, moving to the financial traps category. You have to establish upfront what happens if production costs exceed the initial quote. Like who eats that margin?
Right. Very important.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Right.
The concept of tooling. You have to ask who explicitly owns the tooling and the molds created for my production.
This is a huge one.
Because I would just assume that if I pay, say, $50,000 to have custom molds created from my plastic components, I obviously own those molds.
Yeah.
Are you saying a factory might actually try to keep my physical molds hostage?
Yes. This is perhaps the most devastating beginner trap in the entire industry.
That is insane to me.
To understand it, you have to understand the physics of mass production. A mold isn't just a shape, you know. It is a highly engineered, custom machine block of solid steel,
Right. It's heavy industrial equipment.
built to withstand thousands of pounds of pressure during injection molding. It is incredibly expensive to cut that steel.
So you pay the 50 grand up front.
Many startups pay that $50,000 tooling fee up front. But because they didn't explicitly negotiate ownership in the contract, the factory retains the legal rights to the mold.
Oh, no.
Fast forward a year, the startup wants to switch to a facility with cheaper labor. The current manufacturer smiles and says, "Sure, you can leave." But the steel molds stay here.
So your entire business is suddenly just paralyzed.
Completely paralyzed. You have to raise another $50,000, wait 3 to 4 months for a new factory to machine brand new steel molds, all before you can produce a single new unit.
That is brutal.
You must have airtight contractual language stating that you own the tooling and you have the right to physically remove it from their premises at any time for any reason.
That is terrifying, but exactly the kind of mechanic you just have to know going in.
Definitely.
Another huge financial mechanic is the MOQ, the minimum order quantity.
Right. This dictates the fundamental cash flow of your early business.
Because if you can't meet it, you're done.
Exactly. A factory needs volume to justify setting up their assembly line. If their MOQ is 10,000 units and your startup only has the financial runway to purchase 1,000, the conversation effectively ends right there.
You have to negotiate an MOQ that actually aligns with your capital.
Yes.
Okay, finally we get to supply chain accountability. You have to ask if you get a dedicated production manager. You need one specific person on the floor who is accountable for your account when things inevitably go wrong.
You need a name and a direct line.
Right. And you have to ask for client references, specifically in your industry, to verify everything the sales rep just told you.
Always check references.
And the final question.
Yeah.
What happens if the product does not meet the agreed-upon specifications, and who covers the rework costs?
That last question forces the manufacturer to really put their own skin in the game.
How so?
Well, if you receive a shipping container of 10,000 units, right? And the plastic casing is warped because they ran the machines too hot.
Which happened?
It absolutely happens. The contract must explicitly state that the factory absorbs the cost of materials, labor, and shipping to fix that batch.
That makes total sense. Protect yourself from their mistakes. Okay, so once you start asking these 10 questions, the reality is that the answers you get are going to look wildly different depending on where in the world this factory is physically located.
Oh, geographic location changes everything.
Which brings us to the biggest fork in the road of this whole journey, the great geography debate. Domestic versus overseas.
Right.
Let's look at domestic manufacturing first, which for our listeners mostly means producing right here in the U.S.
The primary advantages of domestic manufacturing really come down to control and logistical speed.
Because it's right in your backyard.
Exactly. Your quality control oversight is vastly superior because it's physically accessible. You can hop on a short flight and walk the factory floor yourself.
That peace of mind is huge.
And communication is instantaneous because you share time zones and language. You completely eliminate the 24-hour delay of overseas email chains.
And there is the undeniable consumer goodwill attached to a Made in USA label.
Yes, definitely.
But the disadvantages are steep. We're talking significantly higher labor costs, higher baseline production costs. And frankly, if you are making certain specialized consumer electronics, the domestic infrastructure might not even exist at scale anymore.
That's a sad reality, but true.
Compare that to overseas manufacturing, which is heavily centered in Asia. The pros there are massive. Unparalleled scalability, specialized engineering expertise, incredibly dense networks of raw material suppliers literally right down the street from the assembly plants, and significantly lower unit costs.
But the trade-offs for those lower costs are severe logistical hurdles.
Like what?
Well, you're dealing with massive shipping times across the Pacific Ocean. You have high vulnerability to global supply chain shocks, intense IP risks, as we discussed, and significant cultural and language barriers that can really complicate technical communication.
Let me challenge you on the domestic side for a second, though.
Sure, go ahead.
You mentioned the Made in USA perception. Isn't that label such a powerful marketing tool that it actually justifies the higher production costs? Like, people actively look for that and say they want to buy local.
Oh, that is a very common thought process. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, marketing simply cannot fix broken unit economics.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Survey after survey shows consumers claim they prefer domestically made products. They want to support local jobs.
Right.
But the actual purchasing data at the checkout counter shows they routinely abandon that preference for the cheaper, overseas-made option.
Oh, so they vote with their wallets.
Exactly. If producing domestically costs you $20 a unit and the market ceiling for that item is $25, your profit margin is just too compressed.
You can't run a business on $5 a unit.
You don't have enough capital left to cover marketing, distribution, and payroll. A Made in USA sticker won't keep the lights on if your core unit economics are upside down.
Wow, that is a hard truth. Which is probably why the concept of nearshoring is becoming so popular lately. It kind of acts as a Goldilocks solution.
It really does.
For a U.S.-based company, nearshoring usually means setting up manufacturing in places like Mexico or Latin America. It's a strategic middle ground.
Exactly. Let's look at the logistics of nearshoring for a minute. You secure labor costs that are highly competitive with Asian markets, which protects those margins we just talked about.
Right.
But crucially, you eliminate the Pacific Ocean from your supply chain entirely.
Which is huge for shipping times.
Instead of putting your inventory on a container ship, navigating port congestion, and waiting 6 to 8 weeks for delivery, your goods are put on a truck in Monterrey, Mexico, and they arrive at your Texas distribution center in just a few days.
And you stay in the same time zones for easy communication.
Yes. You drastically reduce your freight risks, and you can actually call your manager during normal business hours.
But since many startups do inevitably go overseas or utilize nearshoring to achieve that necessary scalability, that geographical distance introduces a whole new breed of risks.
It definitely complicates things.
When you are thousands of miles away, how do you actively manage threats like fraud, IP theft, or finding out your product is being assembled in a facility with horrific labor practices?
It requires deep, almost paranoid levels of due diligence.
Paranoid, really?
I mean it. Let's take IP theft. Beyond the airtight contracts and non-disclosure agreements, one of the most effective mechanical strategies is using multiple isolated suppliers.
Oh, the split manufacturing approach.
Precisely. Let's say you're making a smart coffee mug. You have Factory A manufacture the sensitive internal electronics.
Yeah.
You hire Factory B in a completely different province to manufacture the exterior ceramic casing. And you hire Factory C to handle the final assembly and packaging.
I love that strategy. It's basically like tearing up the map to buried treasure and giving the pieces to different people.
Exactly.
No single factory ever possesses the complete functional blueprint to your product, so no single factory can knock it off.
It's a brilliant way to protect yourself, but you still have to ensure quality and ethical standards at all 3 of those facilities, and you cannot manage that via email.
No, I imagine not.
You must hire verified, independent local representatives to conduct unannounced, in-person quality assurance inspections. You establish incredibly clear contracts where milestone payments are strictly linked to those QA reports.
And when looking for these overseas partners, I know a lot of people turn to trading companies.
Ah, yes. Trading companies.
You pay them a premium, and they handle the factory selection, the translations, the shipping logistics, literally everything. It sounds so much easier.
On paper, it does sound great.
But using a trading company is basically like hiring a general contractor for a massive home renovation. It's significantly less of a headache for you on a day-to-day basis, but you pay a major markup for their management, and you entirely lose direct control over the subcontractors who are actually swinging the hammers.
That is spot on.
If the general contractor decides to cut corners and hire cheap labor behind your back, you're the one left with a leaky roof.
That lack of visibility is the core issue. A trading company often refuses to disclose the actual name or location of the factory producing your goods.
Because they want to protect their cut.
Exactly. They are terrified you will bypass them and go direct. But in modern supply chain management, obscured visibility is exactly how you end up with sudden, untraceable drops in material quality.
Or much worse.
Or worse, massive ethical disasters involving severe labor violations. You have to maintain absolute visibility into who is physically manufacturing your product.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means that turning your brilliant prototype into a reality on a retail shelf is an absolute gauntlet.
It's not for the faint of heart.
It requires locking down your IP before you ever pick up the phone. It means understanding the mechanics of the factory floor, interrogating potential partners with those 10 vital questions, and ensuring your contract explicitly states that you own your custom tooling.
Yes, own your molds.
It means making a geographical decision based on cold, hard unit economics and logistics, not just marketing hopes. And it means fiercely protecting your supply chain from fraud and IP theft by maintaining absolute, unbroken visibility.
It's a lot to manage.
It is. And if you are navigating this and need help getting a physical product retail ready, Johann Jacob and the team at Retailbound offer specialized consultations to bridge that exact gap between product creators and major retail buyers.
It is an intensely complex system, and mastering it is mandatory if you want to survive. But this raises an important question, something for you to ponder as you look at the macro trajectory of technology.
Oh. Where are we going with this?
Well, we just spent this entire deep dive unpacking the intense logistical mechanics of traditional factories, right? Negotiating steel mold ownership, calculating overseas freight, managing massive minimum order quantities.
Yeah, the whole traditional playbook.
But as we see exponential advancements in highly precise 3D printing, AI-driven robotic assembly, and at-home micromanufacturing, how much longer will this centralized traditional factory model even remain relevant?
Oh, wow. That's a wild thought.
Could the ultimate overseas manufacturer of tomorrow simply be a software update? A digital blueprint downloaded securely to an advanced machine sitting right there in your own garage.
Now there's a thought to leave you with. Moving from the commercial factory floor right back to the home kitchen. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.